Sorry for the interruption, guys. I ran out of time and I didn't have a lot of time when my dad got back, so without further delay, let's get this thing going. Alright, where were we? Oh, yeah. They waited eagerly as they saw Ichabod's virtue going in and out. There were some trick plays, like kicking or trying to trip the other opponent. There were times when either Ichabod or Abraham went down, rolled, and stood back up to fight some more. They also stopped temporarily as they exchanged a few verbal attacks toward each other. Once you seal that deal with Lucifer, the blood will be on your hands. You will gain nothing if you shall defeat me. What will be left for you? The world will be destroyed. You would no longer exist. A blackguard like you shall pay for your treachery. You betraying Katrina, your partner Abby, and your own team. They will fall after you. Death is inevitable and a constant to the world. Since Abraham regained his face, he felt he was no longer being manipulated by a higher power like Moloch or Dreyfus. He said it was a free man when Lucifer offered. Kind of ironic since Ichabod fought for freedom himself. They were each enduring some clenching blows. A few were so direct that their bodies looked as if they were being canned bit by bit. After what felt like an eternity, it was only for about 10 minutes, the two determined fighters were getting more exhausted, and they were not backing down. You are very close to the devil's doorstep, Ichabod. I am death, and I have no remorse on what I have become. I should thank you for this, as no ailment can hinder me. I would simply be resurrected once you cut me down to size, and then I will strike you down again until you're free from your dying vessel. Even still, my comrades will bring me back. We stand together with our own virtues that'll conquer evil. You cannot underestimate the power of faith. Abraham just grinned. Ha! You're not as daft as you look. Duel raged on. Outside, the six kept gazing on their hands with disquietude. They saw Prudence starting to fade. They heard a sudden clap of thunder with a blinding flash. Oh, this is not good! He certainly hated being in the middle of a storm. The hairs on their necks began to stand up like a hissing cat, and with each passing minute, the symbol became darker like the clouds above. If it should go out like a blown candle. We gotta stop the fight! Throw the damn towel! Jake cried over the wild gusts. Eventually the pair took a breather with Abraham's mouth emitting smoke like a dragon. No one could possibly tell who was in worse shape. Their guess the righteous mortal would fall first. Good night, father. Just as he turned around and faced his other adversary, Henry Parrish made his mark. There was a sharp grunt as Ichabod was impaled in the abdomen. Squish, when blood squirted out. Prudence had dissipated instantly like a busted light bulb. No! Gavin screamed. He was the first to hurriedly run down the underground staircase and race past. Damn. Raced past the petrified statues. In the neighboring chamber, Ichabod just held his wound as he looked upon his maker. He could hardly believe he was slew by his own blood. He fell to his knees, then lied there dying as his body had a large gash and was breathing heavily. Death has a name, and that name shall be Ichabod Crane. Given that loss of blood that caused Ichabod's mind to be flooded with first a sense of panic and doom, then confusion and fear, and finally lethargy, as his perverted son and adversary watched over him and sneered with a great pleasure. No! No! With his rage and his virtue flaming in a bright gold, Gavin charged to the horsemen. Unfortunately, with a quick nod by Abraham, they retreated and disappeared into thin air, leaving behind a swirling blanket of dark mist.
With the emblem lighting the way, Gavin lay close to his fallen friend. He held his cheek with a shaking hand. His allies showed up minutes later, and he couldn't stop hollering his name, nor beg him to stay. Under his immense pain throughout his body and his dying breath, Ichabod was unable to make a final speech. His vitals were shutting down from the massive gash and blood flow. Only he knew it was the exact same spot in which Abraham made his mark back in November 1781. Unlike then, there was no one that could put him to sleep, and the fallen Freemason realized there was no one to save him from his impending fate. He also knew in his heart that he had died for his country and his friends after all, with no regrets. Everyone was devastated once he caught his last breath of life, closed his eyes, and turned his head as he remained lifeless. Gavin sunk to his knees, his hands shaking even when they were holding his head in great sorrow. Team Witness was heartbroken as they came to the fact their faithful friend was gone, just like Abby, Joe, Turgato, Missy, and soon all the numerous hapless victims on Earth. What they didn't notice, while they may have been too absorbed in their despair, a hellhound was ripping his soul asunder from his powerless vessel and dragged his wailing, terrified essence to only God knew where. As if he sensed the chaos, Gavin looked up and gazed toward the opening. His knuckles were as white as snow as he held his weapon. In his terrible rage, he abruptly stood and flew out of the catacombs as fast as lightning. He ran out and followed the burnt trail left behind by the horrifying beast and its prey. Through the thick, desolate forest, he chased after the unseen apparitions until he tripped and tumbled over a twig stuck to the dry ground floor, as if it was raised by the canine itself. Moments later, Jenny was the first to run to the injured sergeant, screaming his name. The team couldn't catch up with it. All Gavin did was burst into tears, and he kept whimpering that his idol was gone forever. As his friends were trying to hold themselves together, Jenny had an epiphany. About 5 minutes later, she attempted to put two and two together, coming up with a theory that the hellhound and Crane's doomed spirit could be where the Tree of Fear stood, as a sort of gateway to the underworld. It was where Abby used to go while she was saving her from the explosion by the Shard of Anubis. She also stated in a whisper that the suspect blowing the ancient trumpet and starting all those crises could be Donnie Wu. She remembered it from the image Donnie found before the fire flu came to be renowned. Miles away, the agent possessively passed over the horn to Henry Parrish. "Thank you, my kind servant. With my father gone and the witness's soul permanently in our master's cage, the world shall fall into shambles." He was tiptoeing away from his subject. "Oh, how you should bear witness to it." Instead, he used his telekinesis and had him in a stranglehold. With a quick flip of his raised right hand, he twisted Wu's neck in half. Bones snapped and he fell to the ground with a thwomp. "You have no use to me." With a large grin, he took a deep inhale and triumphantly blew into the horn itself. The sound echoed throughout the dead wood and the clouds went rapidly dark, while the storm went crazy with the same red radical lightning. Clutching the instrument tightly, his other three associates marched upon their giant steeds. "The reign of our new master Lucifer will soon begin," he declared before letting out a deep belly cackle. Wow, that was quite a twist! Then again, it was bound to happen sooner or later since the cross never worked. This could also be a metaphor on how Fox actually killed off Sleepy Hollow, as well as Ichabod's impending fate. So technically he was dead just the same. Also, I seem to be comparing this to one of my favorite childhood series reboots. They both ended at season 4 with cliffhangers and did nothing to resolve their own story arcs. Also, this may be a comparison from Bob and Enzo to Ichabod and Gavin. The latter each lost their mentor, forcing them to fight for themselves and save their own worlds, while sharing their responsibilities. At the same time, things seem to be more darker as time goes on. When Ichabod dies, it'll be like a combination with songs. Like Sonic's death in '06, I wanted to make it look like a metaphor and an impending inevitable defeat. Like, since the game was so abysmal, it failed to kill the Sonic series and that death symbolized it. Same with what Fox did to Sleepy Hollow and its main character, Ichabod, disregarding the fact they had done it a few times already. Another reason why I despise the damned corporate network so much! We also follow the trope someone has to die not just as a heroic sacrifice, but as a means of what's good for the world, and to show that Ichabod wasn't expendable at all. Like the trope explained, he did plan for his impending doom, and he already knew what the right thing to do was, and is willing to pay the price. He was damned to begin with anyway. Probably no different than Christ dying in Christianity. So, I hate to make sleepyheads upset now that Ichabod, another fan favorite, has bitten the dust. It was very tough for me, even to write about it. But don't worry, the fix's not over yet, for the team must fend for themselves without their leader. Good luck, and God bless them. Until then, this is the Ecron Writer signing out. And soon we shall make the journey to hell and no turning back.